Hi. Uh, so that's a big question. How do we avoid taking out just playing out the pain and the trauma of this collective wounding that's happened? And I'm just fucking diving right into it. Good Lord. No, oh my God. So this is Ariel feeling nervous and uncomfortable about a conversation and a question that I don't have the answer to, but I'm in the constant inquiry of. And I got to have the experience today of gathering with 8 women for this virtual course that I'm running called Appetite. And we all basically just got to be real with each other about how wounded we have been in this culture that really seeks to kind of shame anything that is of the feminine orientation. I'm generalizing now, but that we live in a patriarchal society that spend a lot of time taking women out of power because of the threat, not just women, but feminine aspects of existence, like intuition and emotion and the soul and the aspects of us that aren't controllable or calculable, but deeply necessary. Like the witches were burned, the earth is being usurped and depleted. You know, these aspects of the feminine which threaten a system that's really built on logic, really built on one size fits all approaches to success and sustainability. And it's trickled down into the dynamic between men and women. And there's a lot of wounding. And we see it in our sexual relationships between men and women and our romantic relationships. And the challenge that I see a lot of not just women but human beings facing is that we're waking up. We're gaining deeper levels of consciousness and connection to ourselves, to our power, to how energetically we are connected, and that it isn't just our words or our touch that impacts people, but it's also our energy, our emotions, that we're these deeply sensitive beings who are impacted, and that there are these conditionings, these ways of being. And I was just talking to a girlfriend about this where in many ways the story has been that men are right and women are wrong. And this is an edgy thing to say because I've been spending so much of the past, several years, and this year in particular of my life, being an advocate for men who are being made wrong and women kind of lashing out and, in my opinion, causing much of the same damage that men have caused to women post Me Too movement. And God, there's a lot of pain. And there's so much pain, there's so much anger, there's so much resentment between how women have been suppressed in the past and made wrong, and how men are being suppressed now in conscious communities because of the anger of the feminine, and that we exist in an American culture that very clearly, based upon our president, does not want to value women's rights in the same way that he might value his rights as a man. And that all of this is going on. And while this might not be what we're experiencing in our personal relationships, this collective imprint, this deep pain, which has caused shame and trauma and fear in a lot of us, can play out in our interpersonal relationships. And this is the conversation that I'm having in this course that I'm running, and then just like the conversation in general of the people who are waking up, who are doing the work, who are teaching this work, who are writing about the work and being advocates for it, despite the fact that we are constantly in the process of releasing these conditionings, they still exist within us. And this question of how do we not play out this conditioning in our personal relationships It requires us to really take ownership for the places where we embody the poison that we are pointing our finger at. You know, the place in us where it's like, for me as a woman who writes and shares a lot about the places where society has tried to take my power away or conditioned me to not be powerful, for me it's looking at like, where do I still believe that that's true within myself? Where do I believe that I'm not powerful? And where do I hold these beliefs that actually have me come into my relationships, and because these beliefs exist within me, but because there's shame about the fact that they exist, that I don't look at it and then play out this dynamic in in my relationships. I'm going to invite you guys to comment, because this is edgy. Like, this is an edgy conversation, because we're like, because one, I'm out in public with other people walking by, but also it's because like in spiritual work, in enlightenment work, whatever it is, there's a lot of resistance to acknowledging the places where we embody the evil that we are pointing our finger at. And I'll just speak for myself. Like, there's something terrifying about appearing wrong and being out of integrity. Or there's, like, for me, like, looking at the part of me that still feels like men have the answer and I don't, or that men are right and that I'm wrong, and that I'm just a little girl like playing in a big man's world, and like, oh, how cute am I? Like, that's vulnerable. And it's also vulnerable to acknowledge that I do feel like there are amazing fucking men doing amazing work, and that there are still places where, because of the deep conditioning, that they still feel themselves superior to women. And they might not even realize it on a conscious level, but because the conditioning is so deep, even at the people who are constantly doing the work, we still play out these patterns, and it's destructive. And I think it's so important that we have these conversations, and it requires us to like allow ourselves to be wrong. Like, it requires us to like be witnessed in the places where we're still playing out the conditioning that we're seeking to eradicate. And it requires us to be willing to be kind of like nailed to the cross, so to speak. And I know for myself, my fear is that, like, I'm just really playing around with for the first time of like being willing to like take ownership of the fact that like I identify as a feminist in some ways, because I've had such judgment at the way that I feel like the term feminist has become synonymous with man hater, which I am not. I deeply love men, but I feel anger within me, and not anger at the man across from me, but anger at a system that has perpetuated like a culture that has us feel like we either need to give our power away or have power over. And that's the dynamic that I see, that women feel like we need to give our power away in order to not scare men and to receive love, and that men need to have power over women in order to control them and protect their egos. And this is a total generalization, and I know there are always exceptions to the rule, but like, these are real dynamics that I think it's very important for us to start looking at, like, not just talking about it as if it exists outside of us, but instead speaking about it, acknowledging that because it exists within the collective, it also exists within us. And that the impact that we have on the ability to change society begins with our ability to change ourselves. And this is the conversation that I want to have. I want to open, like, it's humbling. It's scary. It's the fear of being discredited, it's the fear of being attacked, the fear of having people make assumptions about me that aren't actually true and that I can't control other people's opinions or perspectives. But it's real. Like, there's real stuff going on in the world now, and I am blessed to have the privilege to live where I do and have the freedom that I do and be able to cultivate myself in the way that I am able to cultivate myself. And I'm at this place where it's like, I have responsibility. I feel like I have a responsibility to be an activist in some way. And I know that I already am, but there's more. And there's been the fear that if I open up myself to what's being asked of me, that I'll be consumed, that I'll be killed, that it's not safe. And I just get the sense that so many of us have this same fear. And this isn't meant for us to abandon joy or to get lost in the heaviness, but this needs to be here. There's a call to community right now. There's a call to dismantling hookup culture and reconnecting to kinship. How can we as men and women look at the places where we're totally conditioned to sexualize each other and evaluate each other as potential mates, and if it doesn't work, then like push them away and isolate? Like, we can't do that anymore. Like, for the people who are doing our work, we need even a deeper level of vulnerability. So this is me opening this dialogue. I don't have the answers. I don't know where we go. But I feel like I see the path. And I'm willing to create a space for it. So I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being. I would really love to hear your perspective. Create space for that. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.